Hello and welcome to sim.bc, where right now it's 17:35 in the evening. We're getting close to that 7 o'clock, and today we're not going to take all of that fluffy, jummy, stushy, lovey things that we talked about yesterday. That was just an unscheduled Valentine's video because me, as I'm all up in my projects, right? I'm all up in my planning. I'm always thinking about what's the next step, what's the next video, and yet somehow I missed that it's Valentine's. One of well, it's not the biggest at all. I was gonna say one of the biggest things in the in the year, but then I realized it's not that important now, is it? It's just Valentine's. It's just Valentine's. Anyway, I know that many people will disagree with me with that. They're gonna be like, "What do you mean, just Valentine's? It's actually Valentine's." But for me, it's more like, I'm single, I don't really care. But I thought that the video of yesterday was quite enjoyable. The top 5 tips you would do to enjoy Valentine's single. And of course, that goes for every other day of the year as well. Just that you should probably remove the Wi-Fi thing the other days of the week or rather the other days of the year. Well, because, it's inconvenient, so to say. Really inconvenient. Anyway, that's not why you're here now, is it? No, you're probably here because you tuned in yesterday and you realized that what is this? Valentine's stuff? Why are there hearts everywhere? Where's the normal sim.bc? What is happening here? And for all of you guys, and I saw that you viewed, so there are some of you out there, mates. A couple. Today is the day for you because today we're going to continue with the founder's problem. Oh yes, we are. And what are we going to talk about when we're talking about the founder's problem? Well, today we're going to take up the idea of the limitation of resources, which is the idea that when you are a startup, right, when you're beginning your business, when you're taking that first step, taking it from an idea, putting in the effort, right, putting in the time, you've come up with an idea of how to actually utilize the time well, that's not everything. Now you also need the resources. One of the reasons why I am thinking about going to an external part in relation to the school when it comes to this little project right here, right? So in order to get some funding, get some ideas, get that networking going, all things we're going to get into soon. But the entire idea here, and many of the things we're going to touch upon today is going to be coming in future videos as well, such as choosing and convincing investors and hiring and human capital and networking. We're going to talk a lot about networking here today, and we're probably going to take that over. I hope that we're going to talk a lot about networking at least. Otherwise, if we don't, there are more videos coming up on the subject. But yet again, the limitation of resources is the idea that when you start when you are a founder, you generally don't have all the resources that you would optimally need. Let's for instance say that you're thinking, aha, I have the perfect idea yet again, and many of these scenarios starts like this because, well, many of the founders' ideas start with a good idea. That's just how it is. And you say, I want to be a boat manufacturer, and your family and friends just sit there and be like, no. What are you talking about now? Because even though you might have this really brilliant idea of lean thinking, you might have this really good idea of how you can implement it, why you can implement it, there is a gap in the market, why there is a gap in the market, and so on and so forth. But your family and your friends are just nicely going to put it that, well, you don't have a boat factory, do you? And you're like, no, but I'm just going to take a loan. And they're like, but you're going to need millions for that, right? And it's like, yes, I know that I'm going to need millions for that. And they're like, how are you going to get a loan for millions when you don't even have a job? Or some things along those lines. And even if you have a job, how are you going to sustain the investment and taking a loan from a bank on millions when it comes to making a boat production? So you might want to start with something a bit smaller if you don't already have investors who are interested in the project that you're doing. But just for the sake of it, just for the case of the arguments, as we're going to discuss that later anyway, in another video, we're going to say that you're starting off with something small. You do not have the connections as of yet when it comes to angel investors or venture capitalists for that matter. So what you actually want to do is that you want to take this idea that you've come up with, you've utilized, you find the gap in the market, and you want to find a way to utilize this and to apply this to reality in such a way that it makes sense sense in conjunction with the resources that you have at your disposal. And I know, mates, I know that many of you are going to sit out there and be like, I don't have any resources and all of my ideas are too big. But look at me then. Let's take an example here. I just sat down one day and started recording videos. Well, I had an idea in mind. I had some kind of structure. I had a passion that I wanted to work with that I didn't mind if it actually went over and became my work because, well, it's business. It's actually what I'm studying, so it's going to become my work anyway. And I started doing this, and I realized that, oh, I have some existing resources that I can utilize. And when I was in France, when I began, I found things that I could utilize when making videos. So it's a lot about this resource efficiency. It's not only about finding the limited resources that you have, but also realizing new resources that you have. Because when you start making this boat factory thing, for instance, you might think that, oh, I'm going to take a loan because I need to invest in all of the different machinery, all of the locales, all of the area, all of the space. I need to get all of them people start working for me. But perhaps if you think about it, perhaps you can offer some of your mates, some of your friends, right, jobs there and work. And perhaps they're working in a field where they are, exporting things that you will need, or exporting things that you can use. Perhaps you have some things laying around at home that you can actually use. For instance, if you need a workbench, just take a regular bench that you have at home. The dinner table, for instance, perhaps not, you perhaps want one. But in worst case scenario, say that you take the dinner table and take it to your work, and you have that as your working table. Now you've already saved what, 40 quid? 100 quid, something like that, on a really good table. And that is just one way of utilizing an existing resource that many of us usually have in order to translate a dinner table into a workspace, a workable workspace. So when working with limiting resources or with limited resources, it's, well, I would say it's all about, but it's not true. It's half about finding resources. The other half is about actually realizing which resources you can use and putting them into new uses. And if you're very successful with this can be a business within its own. If you go around and you find when you're doing your boat factory that, oh wow, headphones, they apparently make for really good chairs. I do not know how you can do that, but perhaps there is some way you can use that with something else that you're saying that, oh, I can take those and I can take a water bottle, smash them together, and all of a sudden I have a small chair. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that is the case. Then you might go away from your boat manufacturing thing and say that, well, I have headphones and I have water bottles and it's a lot less expensive to invest in. I can make that instead. And then later down the line, if this seems to be successful, you can go into the boat manufacturing process at the end. As I like, because many people who are founders or are very big founders have founded other projects before. I think I mentioned it before, but Elon Musk, for instance, he founded and started PayPal from the beginning. Or I think he had something before that. But anyway, he was behind PayPal, or one of the people who was behind PayPal before he was behind Tesla. Something I thought was quite interesting and, quite inspiring, actually. That he didn't only take on this Tesla project from the get-go, from the beginning, but actually had something else before. The same idea goes hand in hand here, that if you have something that is a really big project, right, you probably want to, well, even if you start doing it, try to look for other solutions. Yet again, utilizing the perspective of that I am having limited resources. And then I just have a note here, utilize networking, and we're going to spend an entire video talking about networking, but networking is A to Z when it comes to, well, everything in business, really, especially when you're talking about limited resources, because one of the resources that you probably have equally as much as anybody else or as the average person is a network of people. Now, you might not realize it, but your parents is a network, your potential siblings are networks, your siblings' friends are a networking possibility, your parents' friends are a possibility. So even if you have a very small amount of friends and you don't consider your friends as potential networking possibilities, you still have all of these things around you as your parents' friends and your siblings' friends. Now, of course, any good founder should realize that, well, you probably believe in what you're doing, so you shouldn't be ashamed of spreading it to new people, and hence you should really think about your friends as a networking possibility and your friends' friends and their friends as networking and marketing possibilities. Now, I'm not saying that you should how should we say this, abuse this trust and utilize your friends in such a way that it's unhumane and you're taking away the friendship from it. That's very bad. Don't mix friendship and money. It usually doesn't turn out quite great. You should only mix money and, you know, investments with people that you can, you know, cut ties with without actually mattering that much to you. Sounds harsh, but I believe that to be the best way. Now, there are many companies, many family companies out there who, well, disprove this theory, but I just think it's easier to not involve money when it comes to family and friends. However, your friends' friends or your friends' friends' friends, there you have a networking possibility. And yet again, if you go to parties, if you don't, if you sit on Skype all day, if you look up on Reddit, you should be able to market this and see that as a networking possibility. And what I've mentioned in my notes here is that is one of the strongest reasons to go into university, because I know that many people say that, well, going to university, isn't that kind of just like an idea that you're making it easier for the HR department because they can just look through everybody who's have a university diploma or degree of some sort, and they can take away the rest and just focus on the university people. Not that they are necessarily better, but just because, well, now I have a smaller sample size to work through. Instead of 1,000 applicants, I only have 150, maybe, let's say. And yes, to a certain extent, that is true. But what you're doing when you're at university is that you're working away with, hopefully, like-minded people. People who are continue studying, so they probably have some sort of internal motivation, some sort of internal, what should we say, drive when it comes to actually attending university and attending higher studies, because they want to have a higher position. And that mentality of theirs is probably something that you will be able to utilize as a founder, because you can go and cater to that need of theirs to say that, well, I know that you're studying. That probably means that you want a higher position or some sort of job security, maybe. And, well, I am working on this process. Either you can say you can come work for me, or you can say that, well, since you're of a like-minded person, you probably know other people who are going to be quite successful anyway. It's just like one of my closest mates once told me that if you go to a really good school and you have really bad grades, it probably doesn't matter, because you're going to know the smartest people in that industry, in that sector. So just because that you know and are good friends with half of them means that you probably are set for life anyway, no matter what your grades actually were. Now, sure, to some extent it has to do with your grades and what you're doing in school when it comes to like promoting and marketing yourself in business life, and people are seeing how you're doing certain things, and they're going to say like, oh, if you did that like that, then probably means that you're going to do that when you apply that to real life as well, even though that's not necessarily the case. But we're getting off track here. The idea anyway is that going to university, one of the most important things, or one of the most valuable things, is that you're going to meet like-minded people. Sorry, wow, that was so wrong. You're going to meet like-minded people who think in a similar way that you do, or hopefully you're going to do that, and you're going to be able to utilize those people in order to get to other people that are doing the same. Even if they're not like-minded, they still attended the same university as you, and they probably, right, on average, will attend the same sort of position that you will do. This means that their new friends, when it comes to society, like when it comes to the work, their friends will be potential networking possibilities for you as well. So that was some sort of an idea of how it is working with limited resources as a startup. You will have limited resources if you do not have the acquisition of, well, external investors, such as angel investors, venture capitalists, other people who want to invest just because they think that it's a generally good idea. But otherwise, what you can utilize is existing resources in a new way, potentially make a new business idea out of that, or utilizing your already existing network. And no matter how good or how bad, how great or how small you think it is, you can probably make it better, bigger, and stronger just by thinking about your network in a new way. Exploring and utilizing your network, kind of external networks to your own, but still utilizing it, because you have a way in, and making that your network will then make it bigger yet again. But that is something we're going to talk about in another video about networking. I'm probably talking about university as well in another video. I'm thinking about the scripted video about that one. So that was everything for me, mates. Have a nice one, and I'll see you, well, tomorrow actually. Yeah, tomorrow. Have a nice one.